Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Sunday, March the 16th, 2025, and today's topic I'm going to call developing sketches. And it's a big topic, so I'll revisit it and go into more detail, but this is to get started. But before we begin, welcome back if you're returning, and welcome if you're new to the channel. I sketch and post every day, and I use a timer to stay focused and to build a habit. I'll start a 10-minute timer. So there's several things I want to go over today, and I'll have to revisit in more detail, like I said. I will link to the previous two videos. The first one, I sketched this out, and then yesterday's video, I did an upside down drawing, and I did that because I wanted to color this, but like not mess up the sketch, or like to have the sketch, partly for the sketch itself, like the drawing, so that I can experiment with the color, but also because I like the way it looks, and so there's that. And sometimes I don't want to color over or mess up like the sketch that I have. And then I thought I could just redraw the horse, which is kind of what I'm going to talk about today, like how to redraw something or develop it, basically. But then I ended up doing the upside down drawing. But one way that you could do it, and I'll start off the video doing this, is to take this like a sheet of printer paper, and you can trace over it. Like I can see it, like you can kind of see it there. And if you have a light box, I guess, although sometimes if it's in the sketchbook, then can't really use a light box on it. You could use tracing paper. I have videos where I've gone over stuff like this, but like if you just need the drawing or like the design or the shape. But just real quick for today, I'm going to, so just real quick, there's different ways to do this, of course. I'm just gonna outline it real quick, and you could be, sometimes you want to be a little bit more careful. I've kind of sketched this horse several times, so pretty much kind of know what it looks like. Now there were some anatomical issues that I had to fix just from the sketch itself. I would say that if the sketch isn't looking that great, or like if you have to work on it, I would do that. I would make sure that the sketch is okay. Now I get that some people think, well, why not just trace it and stuff? I mean, you don't have to, is kind of my point. If you want to learn to draw, I mean, I'm tracing over my own drawing. You can see in this one, like I fixed it. I'll go over it in a minute. And in fact, you can kind of change some of the design elements. Like I decided to change the legs and stuff a little bit. So that's one way to develop the sketch, is my point. So I mainly wanted to get like the shape of it, and there's all kinds of different approaches, especially with color and stuff. It's kind of its own thing, its own topic. But I mainly just wanted to get the shape because I'm going to use color as sort of like the main kind of style. I also wanted to talk about, and that's what yesterday's video was sort of, I was wanting to do, but then I did this upside down sketch thing, is how to translate like the values into like a design for the color. In other words, how to be creative and artistic about it. Now obviously you can just kind of do whatever and it won't matter, but I like to have a balance between sort of the technical aspects of it and like the imaginative aspect, and also like the stylistic aspect. It's the AOS triad, as I call it, the Art of Sedone triad. So that's one way to kind of develop it. And then you can do a lot with just like the outline. You can kind of change like designs of certain like elements, just stuff like that. And I'll come back to this because I mentioned yesterday, like I could have gridded this and then like redrew it. Now, if I'm going to draw it in the exact same size, then I would just trace over it. There's no need to try to redraw that in the exact same scale. Or if I were to redraw it, like kind of like what I did here, it would be drawn in a very like different way. If I really needed to have like things in this picture, which I don't, and that's kind of why I like to be pretty sketchy with stuff like this, is so that I don't feel like there's something, so that I feel like I can develop it, is kind of what I mean. So in another video, I had this thumbnail, and then I kind of just showed a quick example of taking this to that. Now, this isn't that exact because it's a thumbnail and that's still a sketch right there. But like, how can you be a little bit more exact? So we'll do it that way. I'm going to use this, but I'm going to sketch it. I just have like a clipboard here. And if you want to be really precise, you can make the square or whatever, like the grid, exact. I don't need it to be that precise, so I'm going to lightly just kind of do this. I'm going to draw it a little bit bigger than that one. Otherwise, again, like I said, I mean, you could still do it the same scale or the same size. So from here, I'm going to, and I don't always sketch it in pencil either, so sometimes that's the best thing to do. So you might want to do it this way. Just lightly sketch in. And if you have the grid, you're just kind of going off of like the shapes and the proportions and the ratio. And then after that, you can look up reference. You could do this to a photo and then sketch it out. So some of what I'm doing, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So for example, part of it is if you want to learn to draw, then there's sort of like a certain approach, just from my experience, that will help you to draw. Now, if you're studying something, and like you could do this with a photo, like I said, and do it this way where you just kind of sketch, but then you're using the photo like the grid, it would still help you to draw like you would learn. If you trace it, it won't help you as much. That's the thing. It won't help you learn to draw as well. It will be a drawing. Like you would have made a drawing, but you may not know how to draw. I wanted to do that so that you can see that's another way to develop a sketch. I just sketched that from memory, from what I kind of know about horses. Then I took that and just did a bigger version of it, which this might be helpful if you're drawing comics or if you're just drawing. But since I also am interested in drawing comics, so that's part of like panels and stuff, and also just knowing how to draw. So from here, I did this, which is the bigger version of it. And then at this point, I could look up reference, which I would recommend, but then it would have, one, I would have learned a lot more about drawing horses and just drawing in general. And then the other thing would be, it would look more, to me, like more interesting, like more original and stuff. So just some ideas, some thoughts. So that's one way to develop it. Like I said here, sometimes it's good to just trace over something. So let me do that again real quick. Now again, the more you draw something, the quicker, the more you're gonna remember. So right here, I might just want to do this to do like another color variation, and I can be pretty loose with this because I have like the detailed sketch right here. But what if I wanted to do like a different lighting, because that's really what values are, is just like the light and dark, then yeah, you might want to do this just so you can adjust like the lighting if you don't like it. I'll go over like the coloring. This video really, I don't have time to go over all the coloring and yeah, or like to work on it. So basically, I started this sketch looking at like reference, and I mainly just wanted to do like a study, and it doesn't really matter to me what color the horse is. It doesn't really matter to me, like I'm gonna create a lot of stuff from it is what I'm saying. That's like just kind of my approach and my attitude about drawing and painting. With that said, like this isn't the color of like the reference. It was like a black horse. What I used was like a silver pen or a marker, a blue, like a light blue Sharpie. You'll notice like in the black and white kind of sketches, it sometimes looks like I'm being pretty sketchy or like really quick with it, but that's just because of practice. But I'm actually very like precise is kind of what I'm, like I say it a lot, which is take your time. But like when you're at this stage, yeah, you can experiment with it, kind of like I'm pretty loose with this. But let's say you start to have something interesting that you want to develop, which is the topic of today, then yeah, be more precise. Kind of like with this, I would be a little bit more precise to go in and like get the forms, versus like that, you don't have to be as precise right here. But when you start to develop it, you want to be more precise, but at the same time still seeing like what was good about this, like the shape was good. But then when you want to develop it, in other words, then you want to be a little bit more precise. So it's the same with when you go in to like do the color. So I changed some things like the tail and like the hair and stuff like that, because in my mind, like, because I like to work in stages, and I talk about like the different like stages. So for example, like this is a good sketch, but I don't call this like a finished illustration, but it should look good like right here. Just like a thumbnail should look good as a thumbnail. And so for example, I did this like kind of a quick gesture thumbnail, which I knew was kind of messy, and so I drew a better thumbnail. And so let's say I took this and drew this, so this should look better than that one, like more developed, in other words. And if in my mind I could just leave this in my sketchbook, but if I want to develop it into a colored picture, then that's what this like was about. Then my next thing was, okay, I want it to have like the same values, so you can see like I would go a little bit darker to match like the values, but just I don't have to try to copy it. It's just like an idea. Like it kind of gives me like the lighting situation and some of the forms and stuff like that. So there's a lot of kind of things, and some of this stuff will only have to, by demoing it, will it make more sense. But that's like the foundation of all of that. Like that's what goes into like making a picture, and like sort of my approach to it. It doesn't always have to be like that. Sometimes it can just be like a quick sketch, but I know that that's what that is. Like I know the stages of it, of how to develop something, how to give it more detail, or how to give it more life. But that'll be it for today. And I want to thank you for joining me for our daily sketching routine. And if you like these videos, please support the channel. I appreciate it. And until next time, keep on sketching.